Isn't Oh, sorry. I think my internet went off briefly. Yeah, so it is an opportunity to listen to seasoned facilitators who will take us through another topic that is really crucial to research, and we've had different people over the course of the last 6 to 7 weeks, and now we are having another really I don't know the English word to use to qualify him, but he's a top scholar, and he has been ranked high in the last year as part of the strong scientists in the world. And I think even though he's young, but he is very experienced and skilled, and that is why he's the one taking us today through issues related to literature review. But then I'm not the one that will introduce him. I would be inviting the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Development, about from Law University Ife, and that is Professor Akani Akinyemi, to do the introduction and welcome the speaker. Professor, good morning, sir.
Thank you, Dimeji. So again, let me start by welcoming us to this another session and a new series in our Friday early morning workshop. So again, to welcome us all and to thank us for our dedication to this. As I mentioned last week, even during the holidays, we were all here. So that's, for me, it's a major boost for us to see that we are all interested in what we do at this forum. So this morning, we want to start a series. We don't want to call it literature review because what we are really looking for is how we move from the theoretical teaching to having some hands-on skills. And we are privileged this morning to have with us Dr. Obasanjo Bolaniwa. I call him Professor. Obasanjo is one of those alumnus of Great Ife that we're all proud of. He read demography. But currently is with York University St. John in UK. He has transitioned, from being a demographer to a global health researcher. Currently is among the 1% most cited authors in the world. He has done a lot, has published a lot. He's not just going to be teaching us theory, he's going to show us a lot of his experience, particularly in this area, synthesizing review, to make very strong statements in research. So I'm sure that OBJ is likely to take us about 4 or 5 sessions. It's just starting this morning. So it's my privilege and a big honor for me to introduce to you one of those very bright young scholars that we have. He has won so many awards, so many grants, so many accolades globally. So OBJ, it's my singular honor to welcome you. You have the floor. You speak for 45 minutes. Then we leave 15 minutes for comments, questions, and so you have the floor. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, sir. Thank you, Prof. I'm very happy to be here. Again, it's an honor, despite my working schedule. Whenever my house are call, it's just like me leaving everything, and I have to just answer the call. Thank you so much, Prof, and thank you so much, Ola, for inviting me to this wonderful series. And like Professor Akiyemi rightly said, we would not be stopping here today. We'll be looking forward to have about 3 to 4 sessions. But this morning, I want to take us through an important aspect of getting ready or getting started. Sorry, I use multiple screens. I'm just trying to show that we have the right screen. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. It's an honor, and I'm very happy and humble as well to be able to take us through this journey. Again, my name is Obasanjo Bolañiwa, and at any time, I know we have a structure of 45-minute presentation and 15-minute question and answer. But if you think there's anything bothering you that you just want to highlight in the course of this presentation, please do so. Yes, because again, here we encourage so much active learning, and I will also be asking some questions or prompting some requests to see if we are following. So thank you so much. So this morning, we will be looking at just an overarching discussion around from search to synthesis. How can we master literature review such that it can give our impact? To start, the whole slide I have here is about 25, and truth of the matter is that I'll be talking through the slides, and I'll be sharing some pertinent experience on how literature review has helped my journey, has so much helped me to remain focused and to know what to work on. For me, it's just like a walkover of knowing the end from beginning, and ability to be able to lay down the cards that you have and be able to choose which one you think is right for you to pursue. And to do this, I've started from the basics because I feel the basics is important for us to know what exactly are the things I need to know first. What is the basic thing that I have to ensure that I know and I'm able to run with? And for us to be able to do this, I've highlighted this overview. So what is literature review? In another way, we'll tackle that. Why does this matter? How can we search effectively? Because like the Bible will say, if the foundation is faulty, there is nothing that the righteous can do. If you do not even know how to search, or your search is not intensive or effectively done, then there is possibility that everything you're going to be working on will not be right. Then how can we ensure that we screen and appraise those studies well? And then moving from what we used to see as an editor to so many journals as myself, that when I receive some manuscripts, all I see is summary, I see descriptive writing, rather than getting into what is needed as in-depth information around what is required of us as academia to be able to see and write all of this effectively. And this will also lead to writing for impact, because when you do the right search, you're able to appraise and screen your manuscript publication effectively, or your article effectively. Then you can then be talking about writing well, because it is when you have the right source that you'll be able to synthesize the right scope and bringing out the beauty of that scope. And all of this will then amount to impact, because the truth of the matter is, if we stay on our laurel and write the way we feel we should write, following the perspective that we think is right, it's not going to be so easy to have an impact, especially in the global world where it's more competitive and we have a lot of people, trying to get to that pyramid at the top. So what is literature review? To sum it up, like I said, I'll be speaking to the slide. I will not be reading directly from the slide, but you can just go through all of this. But what I was saying is that, picture this: you are on a journey that you do not know the destination. Yes, you're on a journey, and you've started this journey so much, so good that you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of passion, you have a lot of things you want to achieve on this journey, but yet you do not know the destination. So what that means is that you need a guide to get to that destination. If the destination is Y, or let's say the destination is X, of course, as mathematicians, demographers, and all that, we look for health everywhere. So let's assume the destination is S. You need a compass that will get you to that destination. And picture literature review as that compass that will get to that destination to find S. We have a lot of studies that has been done, a lot of methods that has been employed to answer different global demography or population health issues around the world. And people have done this work meticulously, documented it, published it in good journals. So if somebody is starting a PhD or master's and you want to do something different, you must be able to know how to harness those knowledge that has been documented before you start your own journey. Because remember, I said that journey has no destination tag to it. So what this simply means is that you need a compass of people who have gone ahead to use in order for you to get to your own destination. And that is why up until today, apart from studies that have not won Nobel laureate and the rest, most studies are highly cited, either literature review, scoping review, systematic review, or meta-analysis. This is because most of these studies do not just look at a local problem, but oftentimes start from national problem, subnational problem, or international problem. So as the case may be, what you were saying is that when you're conducting literature review, despite the fact that you have your home destination at the back of your mind, that you are looking for compass to guide you through that journey, you will also be gaining experience or information or gap around what could be required at national level, subnational level, and at international level. So when you then are able to harness this, it gives you an edge over whatever you are doing. So let me bring it down. I am interested in knowledge gap around sexual behavior and modern contraceptive use in Modakeke, Ile-Ife. As a master's student, I am so intrigued in that. Topics sound interesting, I know. But the truth of the matter is, if such study has not been conducted in Modakeke, Ile-Ife, there is highly possibility that the same variable has been operationalized and analyzed within Nigeria. Oh, okay, let's assume it didn't happen within Nigeria. There is possibility it has happened in West Africa. There is possibility it has happened in Sub-Saharan Africa. Oh, there is highly possibility somewhere around the world of 9 billion people has thought about this and has done it elsewhere. So that's where literature review comes in. So when you do your search, you'll be able to see that person that's in Kenya or that's in Australia, that's in somewhere else that has done this, that you can then harness that knowledge as your compass that will guide you to do what is required in Modakeke, Ile-Ife. You see, so that is the beauty of the journey I'm about to take us through, starting this morning and over the course of some other sessions that I'll be, coming on board to do. So the structure and critical summary goes beyond description. We have to know how to in-depthly talk to our findings. We have to learn how to identify patterns, the gap, because those are the things that people won't see, that they can just say, okay, this study is very interesting. I think I will cite this study in my own work because it highlights this gap and that. And of course, to provide that foundation that we are seeking. And in order for us to achieve this, we have different types of ways within literature review that we can adopt. And I'm going to take time to explain this again, taking you through journeys of empirical examples. Okay. I know we do not have time, and forget about the 25 slides. Like I said, we might not even get to half of what we will do. Yeah. So we have the first one, which is the traditional way at which we look at findings in the literature. We call this narrative review. And a very good example that I give within this is, let's give an instance. You've gone on a journey, and then you are coming back home, and then your children welcome you. So, daddy, mommy, welcome. How was your journey? Oh, Nairobi was good. And you started talking about Nairobi. But Nairobi was good. The function was important. I met some friends and all of that. What you're doing basically in English language is that you are narrating what happened throughout your journey. And look at the literature review in that manner. You go to different database. You find those, those studies, you gather them together, and you start narrating what they have done. At the surface, you just continue talking about it without any structure, without any systematic way of doing it, or without an important maybe bus stop or something to consider or something to ensure that is included. Then that's narrative. However, when we talk about systematic review, from the word systematic, this simply means that it has to follow a pattern. And again, we go back to the example I gave earlier. So I traveled to Nairobi, Kenya, and then my children, I was trying to talk to them about my experience there. I will start from when I left the house. I left Thursday, 8th November 2025. From there, I got a taxi to the airport. From the airport, I flew through British Airways that took me to Nairobi Airport. What happened, those are the important journey that you have made to your destination and back to your origin. Because in systematic, we want to know your means of transportation. Perhaps we even want to know how maybe the hotel you lodge into. And so we have laid down structures of what to do, what to consider, when to consider them, how to consider them, what to include and what not to include. And when you are doing this, either at the surface or in depth, then we are saying that we are doing systematic review. And the next one is scoping review. So let's see scoping review as the blending of narrative review and systematic review. What this means is that although we do not have a pattern or a specific structure to follow, however, we still do have things that must be considered. Excuse me. We still do have the structure or some process that we have to follow that must be considered. So in other ways, what is more important about scoping review is that whilst in systematic review, we tend to appraise our selected or eligible articles. But within scoping review, we really do not need to do that. However, scoping review is becoming mostly popular now within researchers because of its ability or objective of identifying gaps in research. So for instance, if you are a master's student or you are a PhD student or you are a researcher that is starting a new research scope or focus, one of the things that will be advised that you go through or you conduct is scoping review. This is simply because you do not want to repeat what is in the literature. Oftentimes in systematic review, or especially in narrative review, we might kind of repeat what we have in the literature in a way it changes. But for scoping review, you want to see what has been done, what needs to be done, how those things has been done, and how can you approach those things. Let's give an instance. During my PhD journey, I looked at sexual health among women with disability. And my scoping review looked at the whole of Africa, what has been done around sexual health of women with disability. And during this process, I noticed that the bulk of studies that has been conducted were regionally focused to a particular region within Africa, which was, as at then, was Eastern Africa. So what that gives me is that anything that has to do with women with disability is mostly found, the study is mostly found in Ethiopia or Uganda. So that alone gives me a kind of idea that these people have a policy as a country that is working for women with disability. And maybe that's why some of the researchers were able to conduct all of this research earlier. So there are a lot of gap in Southern Africa and Western Africa and then Northern Africa. So what this means is that as a PhD student, I have a place to focus on, even if I am doing something a bit similar. Scope Review was able to reveal that to me. The volume of study that has been conducted in Africa, where has it been conducted, and methods. And of course, as demographers, that we are so rich in research methods, so knowledgeable in research methods. So they have used a lot of research methods that can probably not scientifically founded. But for me, who had demographic background and trained as global public health, it's very easy for me to then say, okay, I will use this method that I feel is more scientific and then more grounded according to the literature, and use this to run for my PhD. And with that, I was able to bring things that were very unique and then scientific rigor as well. And we have what we call rapid review. You see, rapid review, oftentimes we use it for grant writing. And let me give an instance. Maybe you're looking at your research focus is on maternal, sexual, and reproductive health, just like my own. And then suddenly you see a grant call that is looking at climate change. Climate change. It's not your field, but you feel so much that there are intersections. Okay, so you can then say, okay, you want to just go into maybe PubMed or Scopus to check, has there been any study that has conducted an intersection between climate change and maternal health, or climate change and reproductive health, or climate change and sexual health. Then if you found those studies, you can then quickly review the studies and say, okay, what have they done? How have they done it? And oftentimes people can then say, okay, I think I've done so much within this. Let me see how I can put it to manuscripts and publish it. So that's how we use rapid review of time. We do not have that time. The method, we don't really need to follow any specific way. We can just say that we are focusing all of this on Scopus. We are focusing all of this on Google Scholar or PubMed, and then we do that within a database. So why literature review matters? I know from my studies, from my explanations, we probably have gotten one or two things, but we want to prevent duplicate. We don't want the whole database to be saturated with repeated studies. We want to identify gaps. Very important. We want to, as I am now, even with all of the wonderful introduction that I was given by my mentor and my friend, I'm still looking for gaps. I mean, we just submitted a bid around climate change, and then I was still asking myself, oh God, what's next? So because as an active researcher or someone that is very inclined to knowledge, you will always want to get something different to do. You always want to know something, that is unique. So you need to know how to go about this. Then you want to support the evidence with, evidence-based practice and policy that is relevant to that field that you're focusing on. And it's not the understanding that maybe scoping review or literature review is peculiar to people in social sciences or people in earth sciences. No, it's for all fields. If you're in engineering, you are in, because I've heard a lot of people saying something around, oh, I really don't need to conduct literature review. No, you need to know what people have done. And maybe because we call it literature review, that's why people think, oh, it's more of art. Yeah, it's an art in definition, but irrespective of your field of endeavor, you need to know how to get this done. Then it's strengthening our justification of study. If I should start talking about my PhD study and what scoping review has done for me to be able to move in pace and to be able to make impact, you will be shocked, because it's something that I devoted time in to check and to use, and eventually gave a very good returns. So we have an important 5 core stages that I really want us to know. So in all of these stories, again, it goes back to research. We must understand that our research question is very important. I'm going to give an example of how our research questions should be structured or what we should be looking at. You see, when on your journey to destination X, yes, it is a journey that you do not know what the destination is. However, it is a journey that you have defined. I am interested in modern contraceptive use and sexual behavior practice in Modakeke Ile-Ife. That is your interest. So you have defined it as a, so how can you then use this to become a research question? Or you want to know what are the contributions of religious leaders in propagating modern contraceptive use or encouraging modern contraceptive use in Modakeke Ile-Ife. So that could be a scope, or sorry, not Modakeke Ile-Ife now, maybe in Nigeria or in Sub-Saharan Africa. Or so you then have to bring that research question, not to narrow it down to a location in Modakeke. Yet your own study is in Modakeke Ile-Ife, but you need to then bring it out to say, okay, Nigeria. When you then get to, maybe after searching for studies that have linked the importance of religious leaders and modern contraceptive use is minimal in Nigeria, you can then say, okay, you want to expand it to Sub-Saharan Africa. And then you find out that, oh, you can't get enough study as well. And this is also in the case of narrative review or systematic review. In the case of scoping review, the fact that you cannot even get so much study in Nigeria is already a gap. Or you cannot get so much study in Sub-Saharan Africa is already a gap. Because that's what scoping review we then bring out for you to say. I just recently edited a study with, I think with BMC that got published recently. And the scoping review could not find any study on a particular oral health issue in the world. And the question I ask myself is that, wow, are people not thinking about this? And in that scoping review, no study was eligible. And they made a very concrete, argument on why this is a gap and why this is a gap in relation to Africa and Sustainable Development Goal 3. You see, so it's not necessarily the fact that you can't even find your study in the literature. The fact that you can't find it alone then give you a very strong standing point to make your own argument on defining the narrative of what you actually want it to be. So your research question must be clear from the beginning. And you must know that identifying relevant studies, depending on the method you are using, is also very important. The study selection and how do you want to chart the data. And I tell people oftentimes that being someone that has demographic background is more like a cheat code. And then from demography, I moved to study public health and global health. It's like a cheat code because when people are struggling with data analysis or charting and all of that, I already had the background. So I'm just coming to health field to come and learn, okay, what are the things I can do within health? So when people are struggling with research methods, I've been taught for many years about it. So you see, so we have this ability to be more than one person in skills whilst we are doing literature review, because we need to bring up all of those skills that we have, those table formatting skills, those graph skills must come out for us to be able to channel our findings and bring up attract potential readers and your editor, of course. So we must know how to collate, summarize, and report results as well. Yeah. So focus on I need to focus on research question because I find it to be the foundation of everything we are doing. And when the research question is not well defined, whatever we are doing, honestly speaking, like I said, this is from basic. So I just want us to get ourselves acquainted with this. So a strong review starts with a clear, focused question. We have to avoid something that is vague or that is not connecting. Again, an example of that, where we say we want to check mental health and disease. Yeah, mental health on its own is good, despite the fact that it has a lot of sub information, or it's an auspices to a lot of words that we can use or jargons in research. But then this disease, how many diseases do we have? Uncountable, a lot that are being uncovered every day. So this research question is not clear, it's not focused, it's not specific, it's not smart. I remember doing my undergraduate days when we were doing research method by Professor Akiyemi, and he told us, okay, think about smart, whatever research. And till date, I tell people, just make sure it's specific, it's measurable, and all of that. And you are okay with whatever you want to build a foundation on in research. Either you are doing literature review or you are doing the core research project. It has to be smart. Your mental health, do you want to focus on psychosis, schizophrenia? Do you want to focus on, anxiety? Do you want to pick one and be specifically run with that one? Or you want to link it to so many health issues or diseases? Just pick one or two or three. If you want to pick three, two is fine. What we are just saying is that ensure that you are not here, you are not there, you are just everywhere. With literature review, if you do that, at the end of the day, it's not just that it won't get published in good journals. It's just the fact that at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what have you actually achieved? If you are like me, that go back to my publication and critique myself every time. So okay, what? So for instance, look at this. How does depression influence cardiovascular disease outcome in adults? Yet, cardiovascular disease has a lot of sub-information in it, sub-disease in it. It's not one, but I've been able to find an abscess or an umbrella that encapsulates all of those information I need around disease. And this gives me a very good, idea of, then I'm looking at depression as the cause or, leading to that health issues. So this is very clear, and it's among adults. So the population is defined as well. Unlike the other one, no population. And again, I might want to go further to say maybe in United Kingdom or in Europe or in Africa. So including the geographical focus as well. And I might decide to do it globally if I find out that it's something that is not well researched. So just like every other field, in literature review, we have, please, if I have 15 minutes left, just signal me so I can stop. I have this habit of keep talking and talking. Please. Ola. So we have framework that guide us to be able to develop a good question. Like I said, I'll be dwelling more on this because a lot of manuscripts that get rejected are because the questions are not clear, or are because the framework is not well defined. And I have three specific framework. For me, I usually use the first and the second and the last. This is because anywhere I can remember why it is important to my study. So the first is population. We call it PICO. Population, intervention, comprise, and then the outcome. You see, the population in your research question, which of course emanated from your title, must have a population you are focusing on. It can also be general population. We just need to know if it's adult, if it's young adult, if it's older women or older men, if it's children. We just need to know. And remember, as an editor, for instance, with Frontier, in a week, and I'm not exaggerating, I get not less than 40 manuscripts to edit. I don't even have that time. So I want to show that, okay, this person that is even submitting this manuscript knows what he or she is pushing across. So I want to go through to pick, I just want to pick, is there population there? What is this person trying to develop as a unique thing? Intervention. Because in literature review as well, while you are conducting that literature review, is because you want to develop an intervention. Let's use that word, intervention, as a solution. You want to look for a problem that you then provide solution to. So the comparison is now talking about what are the information that you think will be important. For instance, if you are looking at modern contraceptive use and religious leader, contribution or encouragement. So in this instance, the intervention or the solution you are aiming to provide is around improving contraceptive use, maybe among adolescents in Africa. However, the comparison you are trying to check if it's linked with modern contraceptives is the leadership or is the religious leader contribution or encouragement. So what is that thing that you feel could be the key to the solution? So if somebody is doing literature review and just sent to me, and I see in your manuscript that, okay, you're looking at mental depression and cardiovascular disease, that alone gives me an instant that Xiaomi is the phone number that I'm able to see. You want to say something? Or is it a legacy end? Okay, I think it's a legacy end. So you want to check what is that thing that you are using as a key to that problem you are finding solution to. And then outcome will then be that particular variable that you want to measure. What is it that you are interested in? What is the outcome that you are envisaging that will eventually happen? Okay. And then we have the spider that talked about the sample, of course, the population again, the phenomena. What is that thing that the phenomenon that you are interested in? The design. What design do you want to, use? Are you talking about, of course, our normal research design? Is it the quantitative or the qualitative or the mixed method you want to consider? The evaluation. How do you want to evaluate this? And most times we use spider in we use spider in systematic review. And then the research type, what type of research do you want to consider? Then we have population, concept, and context. So this is very straightforward. Again, population is coming up. The concept, what research focus are you looking at in terms of, then again, this concept has to then look at the geographical location, the focus of it. Then the context, the solution that you really want to provide. And depending on what literature review you are trying to do, then you can consider using any of this framework. For me, I oftentimes recommend Spider for systematic review, PICO, PCC for scoping review. This is because it has less information of what you need to do. And then for literature review or narrative review, you don't really need to use any framework. Or if you are doing rapid review, you don't need to use any framework. You just, follow the normal flow of manuscripts. And the next one that is very important, we spoke about the title, we spoke about the research question. The next one is that we have to learn how to develop our keywords. And one thing that is very important in keyword development is actually how we use our Boolean term. Because if we do not consider synonyms, we will miss out in studies. Let's give, for instance, I am interested again in contraceptive use and contribution from religious leader. contraceptive use among young adults, and then religious, encouragement from religious leader in Africa. That is this systematic review or scoping review that I want to conduct. You see, the word young as a synonym of youth. Okay, it can also mean that in the literature, another word is being used. And this is now when generative AIs are very important. You see, you don't necessarily need to know all of these synonyms, but if you ask AI, what are the synonyms for young people, they can get numbers of them, because the words that you think that you find in literature might not be there. Then when you use your Boolean term of OR and other synonyms to search, that can give you a good number of studies that have used the same, that have been conducted on the same issues or the same populations, but use different keywords. And this will then help you to be able, for instance, adolescent is equal to youth or young people. Because if you don't do this, there's possibility that there is a study that is conducted in Kenya that they use young people rather than youth. And then you, in your own search, focus on youth. You're going to miss out in all of those young people. And if you are conducting scoping review, for instance, and you then come to an editor or your examiner and say, oh, no studies has been conducted among youths in Africa when we're talking about the encouragement we see from religious leader and modern contraceptive use. And then somebody will tell you, no, it's not possible. We just finished a study in Kenya on youth. You say, no, on young people. Then someone look like, okay, you've not really conducted your search and you don't want to get to that end, because I can assure you that space, it's always very ugly. Meaning you thought in your own mind that you've done the study is exceptional. Somebody's telling you you've missed out the study within your time range, and then you feel like, okay, where should I start? So this improves search sensitivity. You will be able to collate studies that has been conducted in all of these places. I think I have about 3 minutes left. So these are the Boolean terms we use. We call them Boolean operators, and or. So how are these used? Religious leader, so, and modern contraceptive use, and youth. So what I have done there is that I am telling the search engine to consider these three words together. So any study that included these three words must surface in my search. So when we get to that search, section, and then we are looking at this, so that when I'm using all of this word, it won't look like, oh, what is he doing? Oh, how did he get about this? However, within the religious leader, we can say religious leader or pastor or imam or traditional ruler. You see, I'm saying that any study that has been conducted that has religious leader or pastor, imam, or traditional ruler should be included in my search, as well as maybe and modern contraceptive. So what we are doing again is to ensure that we use up all the words that are required for us to be able to get a better landscape of studies across our research location. And again, we use marks for phrase. So we use quotation marks for phrases. When we use quotation mark in research, what we are trying to say is that, just like we always say in Nigeria, quote me. So we are saying that if that exact words occur in the literature, please bring it to me. So quote me. So from that word quotes, bring it to me. So there are ways that when we get to the hands-on side, I'll be referring to all of these things, and then we'll be able to to look at it. Thank you. Dr. Adetutu. Okay, I think it's a legacy. So we can combine this term logically, depending on how we want to use it and the location. There is no specific formula for it, but it's just that I've designed some ways of how I look at things that make it very easier for me to do. So we can use, again, the next one is database to use. I have heard different stories around, and I think this is where I'm going to stop so that we can take questions and that will help us for the next section. And I think I still have about 14 slides left. So like I said, it's a very long thing. Yeah. Focusing on most workshops that I've conducted in Africa, across Malawi, Kenya, and South Africa, Nigeria as well. So there is these issues around database that we do not have access to. And this is what I tell those scholars in Africa. We do not have the same access, especially Kenya, Malawi, Nigeria. We do not have the same access developed countries have. And we don't really need to have it to conduct our literature review, either narrative, systematic review, scoping review, or rapid review. We don't necessarily need to have it. Although it's important, but it's not compulsory. Why do I say so? It's because when you start your search, let's assume you start from PubMed. You see, in PubMed, I have about 139 publications, something like that. In Scopus, I have about 100. See, the same my study that is in Scopus are in PubMed. If as a matter of fact, PubMed has more than Scopus. You see, database are engineered as business. So PubMed is saying that, and a lot of people have access to PubMed globally as a free database. So all studies you can find in Scopus can also be found in PubMed. You don't need to have access to Web of Science. Every of my studies that are in PubMed are also in Web of Science. So they are duplicates. So let's assume that I'm doing literature review and I use these 3 databases that I put in front of you here, right? A lot of my studies will come up 3 times. And that is what we then do title screening. And you then see that you are removing 2 studies that are the same, 3 studies that are the same, because we use this database across the search. So if we don't have access to Scopus, all we just need to do is to ensure that in our method, we explain that the database we have used is PubMed, and we give reason to why we are unable to access maybe Scopus. Scopus is highly recognized because of the reputability of indexing good publications. Doesn't necessarily mean that those good publications are not in PubMed if you have designed your own eligibility criteria, which is inclusion and exclusion, and you are strict about your own assessment tools, which we are going to talk about in the future. You see, as someone that is based in Africa, you cannot give what you do not have. I struggled to publish one paper for 1 year in 2019. Yeah, very, very close year. When my master, and it was my master's manuscript under Prof. Akeyemi. 1 year, and the second was myself and my cousin Lekon. That was my second publication again in 2 years. But when I moved to South Africa, I had access to a lot of tools that helped me to learn and to use these tools to be able to go ahead and do a lot. So does that mean I've not learned something whilst I was doing my master's or publishing the first publication? I learned a lot. So our ability to learn and able to give what we have will help us to grow, even when we have those resources. So whilst we do not have resources, we dwell on PubMed, we dwell on AJOL, right? AJournal or AJOL. We dwell on that. Those ones we have access to. We dwell on it, and then we use Google Scholar to supplement. And again, Google Scholar has a lot of all of those publications that are indexed, though again might not be reputable in terms of rigor, because Google Scholar just index anything. But if we design a good tool that says, if the study does not state the objective well, if the study research question is vague, if the study result is vague, if the study, I will not include this, and you put it in your criteria, in your method, it's enough for you to get that published anywhere in a reputable journal. Thank you so much. Thank you. So
Thank
I
you.
would take questions now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Obasanjo, for that brilliant and very brilliant presentation, for breaking down what literature review is and the types and how to get it done at the fundamental level. We are indeed grateful. And we'd like to open up the floor now for comments and questions for our presenter. You can use the raise hand icon or use the chat box. And while we're expecting questions, I would like to ask if Mr. Morinka would like to say a thing or two about the presentation. Yeah, over to you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much. Acknowledging, thanks, Toby, and thanks to my boss, Professor Kiemi, for kicking this. It's a pleasure also listening to you, Dr. Bolarinwa. Though many times I think the Obasanjo is the one after the Bolarinwa. But I guess here it's clear that Obasanjo is before Bolarinwa. So it's a pleasure listening to you. I think what you've done this morning is set the stage to let every 89 person here know they have to be there next week, because it's just the beginning. When you said we are going to stop, I just did see that yeah, stopping when we are just starting to eat the meat. So yes, looking forward to the next 3 sessions. Having said that, I'll keep quiet. I don't know if there's any clarifying question, because I would also speak at the end. I do see one hand already. Over to you, Toby. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. And we'll take questions. Okay. Miriam Umar, you can go ahead to speak or ask a question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam Umar. I'm a PG student from the Department of Sociology. So I just started my MSc in sociology, particularly sociology of medicine. So my question, I'm glad that Mr. Obasanjo, sorry, doctor or professor, I didn't start early. I came in 10 minutes late. So I work with public health in the public health sector, and especially in the field of family planning. And there was something that came up to me when I was in the hospital. My sister wasn't feeling fine, so I was in the hospital for 3 weeks in the period of 6th of December to 29th of December. And during that period, we had about five female girls that came with pregnancy. They're from the age of 16, because I interacted with them from the age of 16 to 26. And some of the 2 or 3 of those females, their respective partner denied even having anything with the baby. They say, oh, she's not the one. Or then there was one that had to even abandon her. Then it was her family. So I kept on because I'm in the field of family planning. I work with OICs in public facilities and private facilities. So in Lagos State. So I know the kind of outreaches we do to get these contraceptives, and they are free to get these contraceptives to them. So I'm still wondering, why are people still not, why are people getting pregnant, especially young adolescents? So from my own observation, I feel because I know the kind of outreaches we do, and we do the outreaches back to back to sensitize the population on the use of contraceptives, to avoid unwanted pregnancy and even diseases, sexually transmitted diseases. So I was now wondering, I now felt like maybe there is something that is missing. There is a gap that is missing that is making, these young girls to still find themselves in situations like this. I felt that probably there is no sensitization enough in the young adolescents, among the female young adolescents. So I was thinking probably it has to do with also sensitizing the male, because what we do is sensitizing more of the females than the male. So I was thinking that probably it has to do with sensitization of both the male and female. So if I want to develop a research questions around that kind of this kind of problem or this gap I see, so how do you think I should go about developing such a research questions? Because I feel that it's sensitization, but it might be more than that. So how can I go about doing that, sir? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. And thank you for being very explicit in your question. All right. So Professor Akone Akiyemi is a global scholar on sexual and reproductive health for adolescent girls and young women. And I can assure you, if you see ask him today, he will tell you there is still a gap. And that's the truth. So research is always ongoing. It's never stopped. And what you have identified or what you feel that could be the problem, you might be shocked that it has been explored, even within your locality. So what literature review will do for you is to help you know what has been done. And the first thing I tell people to do is be petty as possible. Go to Google. I mean, go to Google, like google.com, and just type it.
Okay.
Male contribution to, or young male contribution to modern contraceptive use or family planning in Nigeria. Let's start from that. Google, not even Google Scholar, google.com. And then you will see first to 3 pages, just check what has been done. And then from there, it will give you an idea of, okay, this has been done, that has been done. And if you want them to go further to say, okay, what are the scholars said about it? That's where you can then use Google Scholar. Because oftentimes, a lot of community work do not get indexed in Google Scholar. So, and then you want to get that idea as well. You want to know what is happening. Like, for instance, we are doing one community work in Kenya. It's not on Google Scholar, it's just on Google, because it's just like a report and Google will not index that. And there are a lot of information there on how male has contributed to, or they are not contributing to, young women or young girls family planning use. You see, so from that, you then be able to see what can you develop or what are the things to look further, because that is what Scopely Review will do for you. Scopely Review will let you know what has been done, what needs to be done, where has it been done, who are the people doing it, and what can you do. So it's because when you know all of things that has been done, the cards that are in front of you, then you then look for the cards that is missing. And then you then be able to place it, or where is it missing? Place it where it belongs. So you're on the right track, because current contemporary discussion around improving family planning use is now shifting to men involvement globally. So we might also start the dance from young boys, of course. So
Okay.
start
Thank you
from
so
Google, go to Google Scholar. From there, any database you have access to, just check. Just put your words there. Use your words anyhow. From there, that you'll be able to then define your own words and develop it in the right way. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I think, okay, over. Please continue. We do
Prof,
have a lot
please
of,
go ahead. Please go ahead. We have questions in the chat box, but we are almost on top of the hour. I wanted to request for an extra 5 minutes to take the questions as fast as possible, and you can wrap up now, if that's fine.
All right, I think we'll probably ask for about 10 minutes. There are quite a number of
Okay.
questions.
All
But
right.
yes, would you be directing the questions or do you want me to take it?
We could do that. I could do that, but that's fine. Yes.
Please go ahead. Yes, we have
All
about
right.
4 questions. Yes.
Okay. So, Dr. Obasanjo, we have a question from Professor Delayo. Says, how do we include grey literature? And I'll take the next one from Olufemi Aluko. Says, what are the basic ingredients? And in terms of ingredients, means software, hardware is required to undertake reviews. It stopped during the COVID era after finalizing meta-analysis review with his mentor and could not continue afterwards. How do scientists overcome this? I think we can take these 2 questions and then we'll read the following. Over to you, Dr. Obasanjo.
Okay, the first question is sorry, can you say the first question again?
How do we include grey literature?
Oh, thank you. How do we have what we call ProCrust. We have different database that index grey literature. And I want to put it to you today that part of grey literature, according to what WHO is considering, is also your PhD and MSc thesis. Yes. So we have WHO websites that we can get all of this information. We have, if you are talking about grey literature, first focus should be who are the key play actors in your field. For instance, myself and UNFPA, we are like friends every week. I go to the website to check what is going on, what is happening. So if you are working within climate change or you're working on medical health, you might want to visit WHO websites more. We have United Nations websites or different United Nations websites, that you can check for great information online. I understand the fact that we understand that grey literature should be physical. We just have to go to different places, to maybe library or maybe our locals. Yes, those are still there, the local records. However, if you're unable to get those information, it doesn't necessarily important that you include them. You can say it in your method that they are not available, you're unable to get it due to resources. But online, your key players, your key actors in the field, you can get grey literature from there. And they are acceptable to be used. Then the second one, it's about database, right?
And tools that you use, yes, for undertaking
Okay, yeah,
review.
we have different tools, especially the one. So when you say, so the question again, there's a way the question is framed.
So, Olufemi Aluko says, what are the basic ingredients, software and hardware required to undertake reviews? I stopped during the COVID era after finalizing a meta-analysis review with my mentor and could not continue afterwards. How do scientists overcome this?
Although that question is not really clear, but the software, for instance, we have references software, EndNote, we have Mendeley, we have Zotero that can be used to keep all of those publications. You export it into those software, and then from there you can do the screening. There is another one that is not coming on top of my head now, something Metaverse or something like that you can store all your database and screen from there. Ref Manager, it's called Ref Manager. You can screen from there, and over time you will not know they're eligible. And this you can also share it with. But again, most of all of this software requires subscription. You see, those are the limitations we have in Africa. They require you to pay. For instance, my university pay for all of this subscription. So how to overcome it, Major, if I'm going to be selfish with my response, is that you need collaboration outside Africa. You need people who can support your vision. And how do you get connected to these people? LinkedIn, Facebook is dying now, emails, X, you can connect to people of like minds. You can send them a cold email or cold inbox that you're doing something like this. You need resources, you need them to support you. And oftentimes, even they are not, for instance, I might not be able to accept every collaborator, but I have PhD students, I have research assistant that can say, okay, don't worry, this person can support you, that person can help you, and then you work together with the person because they have the resources. You see, yeah, that would also help. However, you can also go do these things manually. You know, it's though it's time wasting, but then again, it is where we are. And then there are also free version to some of this software. If you check on Google, you'll be shocked that some free version are available for you to use. Yeah. For the meta-analysis, even Stata can do meta-analysis, and I think we have free version or some abridged version that people use on Stata. Although we will get there, it's a journey. So when we get to all of those, it will also, I will provide more information, maybe in future workshop.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Obasanjo. We'll take the 3 questions left. One from Kendi Adelaja says, what are the formats or stages to follow when doing systematic literature review? And the next one from Richard says, do research questions come before literature review or after reviewing the literature? We'd like to take this 2 before I read the last one. Over to you, Doc.
All right, thank you. What are the things to research question? Does it come before? You see, when we say research question, I like to put research question as the last result. This is because before research question, there is what I call will I say int? I don't want to use the word that is coming to my mind because it's more spiritual, like a pastor's thing, you know. We call it discern. Yeah, you know, something in you will tell you this, just like Miriam rightly said, you know, yeah, male boys should be, be curious. Your inclusivity, right? Your inclusivity is what would, if you are inclusive enough, it's what would then translate to you looking into the literature to look at what has been done. Being curious will help you to then further. There are some things that I developed an inch on, and when I got to the literature, oh, it's already flooded. And I was like, okay, no, this is not going. So I would say some of us have it, some people don't have it. So if you know you don't have that thing in you that talk to you, something like that, then literature should be your friend. You should start from Google, like I said, from Google Scholar, they start. But if you have things that maybe something dropped to your mind, or maybe on social media, you just come across things and say, okay, let me see if that's been done. And then you start searching and you find all of these people. I mean, all of these papers. So when you then get those information together, those information is what will then give you the direction of what your research question should look like. So you cannot develop research question and start going to the literature. Oftentimes, it's just like you have made up your mind and you are praying to God for breakthrough or for a direction or something. So you have to go raw into the literature to search what is there. Although you have an idea of what you want, but you've not developed research questions. So from that knowledge and what is in literature, when you then combine it, you then be able to form your own research question that is unique, that you can then pursue to find further studies on, that you then use for your work. So the first question again, sorry.
Yeah, apologies. The first question from Kendi Adelaja is, what are the formats or stages to follow while doing systematic literature review? Over to you.
Yeah. Okay, what I will say now is that if I say the stages now, it really will not make sense. But I did say something around using Spider most of the time. So what this means is that, the sample, the phenomenon, the design, the evaluation, the research type. But what you should know at this stage for systematic review is that it has its own procedure or process or focus that you must follow. So what that means is that whatever you are doing, somebody else must be able to follow that process you said you use and get the same results. So that's very important in systematic review. So when you're searching, maybe the first database, PubMed, excuse me, after you have generated your research question, then use your research question to generate your keywords with your Boolean terms and the rest, and then you put it together, you put it on PubMed, you get your results. Let's assume in Africa, the studies were 40,000 between 2015 and 2026. You see that 40,000 and the Boolean term and every keyword that you have used, somebody else should come in the next 100 years and put the same thing in PubMed and get the same results for the same year. So you have to then document that number, 40,000, somewhere. You do the same for Scopus. You do the same maybe for Web of Science. You document all of this. So let's assume everything is 200,000. You then start what we call title screening. You start what we call duplicate removing. So you remove the duplicates. Like I said, some of my studies can be in PubMed and Scopus. You don't need 3 of those studies. Maybe just 1 that you need. So if you see that, okay, the duplicate, they look the same, you remove all those things. Let us assume out of the 200,000, the duplicate you remove is 100,000. You record the 100,000, that you remove 100,000 and you left 100,000. Then you start your title screening. Whatever is remaining, you record. You start again from your title screening, you screen your abstracts. Whatever is remaining, you record. You screen your full text. Whatever is remaining, you record. So those are the processes that make it to be systematic. Using this framework, you can then document with ASCII and O'Malley framework to then say, okay, this, and that's where we then have this, this one, that we then be able to use Prisma flow charts to document all of this process. What we have included, like I said, is what we'll explain in the future workshop. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. Over to you, Prof. Prof, you can please go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And Bashir, I noticed your hands is up. If you could just write your question in the chat box. I said that we're already extended 20 minutes and 2 minutes beyond time. Apologies, we couldn't take that. If you could just write it in the chat box, we'll be able to take it forward to you. Also, those of you on the PG platform, please continue to ask us questions in the PG platform. On the PG platform, your coordinator will continue to announce. I am on the PG platform. I can also support to answer some of the questions you might be curious about. This is also to thank from the depth of our heart. Dr. Bolarin was a stimulating lecture. You did hear very much the difference between narrative versus systematic review. Many of us will do narrative reviews because that's what we do in our thesis. But we have already heard here what the limiting power there is about narrative and what the power is about systematic reviews. And also one thing, if you're going to go the way of publication, maybe think when you're doing your thesis, starting with the systematic review, even though you're not going to write using the systematic review, or maybe go the way of scoping review to even write, to empower even your narrative. These are your choices, but these are the things we've heard powerfully this morning from Dr. Bolarin. There's a difference between narrative and systematic review. There's a difference between scoping and systematic review, but the most powerful tends to be systematic review. Many times, ending up in the publication space for your thesis, you might have to make a choice between narrative and scoping review. He had started to tell us what it means to do a systematic review. This is why you're here for 4 weeks. Thanks for starting with us. I did see a question that says, what are the next steps? This is why you have to stay with us for the next 3 weeks, so that you can learn all the steps, the brilliant steps that not only gets you to finish your thesis, but makes your thesis powerful in a way that what you are going to do can generate manuscripts. We are not here at Central Office of Research to promote manuscript writing per se. We're here to encourage writing, sharing your story, like he noted, in a way that there's evidence in the policy space to inform what needs to go into policies and programs. That is what we're all about, the evidence. You heard him use a word, rigor, and that just struck my heart like a dart. Rigor, this is what systematic review is. And when there's no rigor, it goes nowhere. And finally, I heard the words you need collaboration. There is no doubt you need collaboration. As you go on to learn about this, you cannot on your own do a systematic review in a PAP or SIP. You cannot on your own do scoping reviews in a PAP or SIP. Of course, we do miracles, and on our own, we do narrative reviews. But beyond that, the collaboration is also to improve the strength and the rigor of what you do. But yes, it also allows you to get those databases that you otherwise would not get in Nigeria. You would not get in OAU Ife. Yesterday, I still contacted my mentee in China, who is the person I always go to. Two things I would get: you would need the collaborator for the database, and you won't get Scopus in OAU, sadly. And then second, even if you do it from other databases, the journal, because once you have finished your screening of the title, you will have to screen the entire manuscript. So you need that collaboration to get those copies. On this note, once again, we apologize. We've extended our hour by 15 minutes. It's not our practice. We sincerely apologize. There are still many questions. Please take the questions to the PG platform. Will continue to answer your questions on the PG platform. And once again, to sincerely thank every single person, including my friend and brother, Tolu Osayami, that is here. Every single person, 75 of you participants, we noticed you and we're very grateful. Thanks for being here. And a special thanks from the Vice Chancellors, the 3 Davises, the Ogas at the top, to Dr. Bolarinwa. Thanks for honoring our invitation. We do look forward to having you next week. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Use it productively. Think about your next research question and follow us to make it smart. Good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.